Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Coast-to-Coast Combat Hour. I'm your host, Matthew Hawkins, as always, joined by my co host, Ed Carbajal. And weekly, we are brought to you by allaccessmma.com. Check out allaccessmma.com for a video podcast, MMA news, and MMA stories. Ed, busy past weekend,
Hmm.
a lot to talk about,
Hmm,
a
hmm,
lot of fallout from the events.
hmm.
Not sure where exactly you want to start. I know the first event that
Well,
really
yeah,
mentioned was obviously Bellator.
yeah,
You want to go there?
yeah. We might as well go. We might as well go through the weekend as it happened because funny how you know I always message you my my what I can't say
Hatred for
weekly.
John McCarthy,
Not hatred, but like
not hatred.
my disposition on his him calling fights. That's usually how we start a Bellator night from coast to coast, and then uh, um, as the fight goes on, uh, we get to the main event. I mean, great card, it's a great event. I mean, the Patchy Mix advanced by submitting Magomed, so it looks like the Magomed shtick didn't
Took a
stick
hit.
with
Took a
yeah.
hit.
And then we had the Stotts versus Sabatello, and you actually messaged me. You're fucking Doug Crosby.
Like instantly, I
Yeah.
heard his name. I was like, I think I messaged you prior to even the last announced thing, scorecard. Um, Pretty wild to hear 50-45 for a losing
hmm
fighter. I think I saw a couple stats that said that might be the first time in MMA history that that has ever happened. Uh, I I mean, you want to go deep into this. It's just crazy to me that we've talked about this guy for like multiple times on this show.
hmm
So the fact that like we're able to acknowledge that there's something going on here and something's not right. And it kind of
hmm
goes back to he seems to do a lot of the Mohegan Sun shows and the East Coast shows,
hmm
which was why maybe Mazzulli coming after BKFC for being, I know it was different subjects, but I was kind of like, dude, you like, there's a lot going on in your commission that you're not taking care of. So it's funny you
hmm
shouldn't be necessarily throwing stones at Montana or those other commissions that he was
hmm
going after for licensing fighters and stuff. Um, you know, eh, any event that has Doug Crosby, Sal Diamato, because Sal Diamato's flying under the radar here too.
hmm
He doesn't he's the stats came out, for like the judges that I saw, and it was in the scorecards basically how
hmm
many times they were the dissenting scorecard.
Oh,
And
you're talking about the thing that Fontana put up from the New York
there
Post.
you I think
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Sal
So I mean,
Fontana, yeah.
Sal Diamato's stats didn't look good, but Crosby was brought to light this weekend. We've talked about him in the past.
hmm
You've mentioned several times Chael Sonnen had an interview with him.
Two.
Two interviews where he came off
Yeah.
looking terrible. He's banned from actually judging certain fighters' fights, which I know of no other judge that's the case from, other than
yeah.
self interest or you know, but nothing because of like criminal intent. You know,
I mean, but what do they have to do? What do they have to do to stop, like, just stop using the fucking guy? I mean, or fire him or whatever they do with these officials, because you know the guy. I mean, I know you mentioned other judges. There's a lot of other judges that we know their names, and it's not for good reason.
you
And
should never know their name.
like people know who Adelaide Bird is because she's just the nepotism or whatever it is. That's why she's got her
Hmm.
position, and notorious bad calls. I mean, like, but this guy, it's like he publicly stated he's got beef with folks from Serra Longo, that whole Ayaquinta connection, and he publicly said like he'll score against him just because of whatever fucking beef he's got with them, which is something stupid.
That's what I
Eh,
meant by criminal. Not actual
Yeah,
criminal, but kind of criminal when you're talking about basically fixing a fight against a fighter because of a personal beef.
yeah, yeah, and so they can't so that he's given you evidence to show that he can't be objective, because he's flat out saying I'll score against these guys just because I don't fucking like them. And then the next thing if you listen to him on Chill, that those two podcasts that Chill Son did, and I want to say 2015, 2016. I don't know the episode number, but like, Sonnen gets in an argument with him on the first one, and then he has him back the following week, which is like and he simply could not answer the question, what kind of training do you have that makes you to be an official, like a judge, like what is there any form of training? He just couldn't answer it, and I don't know if he was drunk or high. I think there was a girl giggling in the background or something because it was like a phone interview through like, it's just like the guy seems like whatever his deal is, you need to stop having him there. And to your point with the Mike Mazzulli thing, like how many times did he have to fuck up before you say that you're going to look into him? Apparently, he says he's going to look into all three judges that are going to be reviewed, but um, the results of the findings are not going to be made public. So the way I take that is, you're just saying you're going to do something about it, but you ain't really going to do shit about it.
The only way you'll know something was done about it is if you never see his name again.
And that's what Aaron Brunstetter from TSN said, was like, because of that statement from the commission that came out from the Bellator event. Mazzulli's, it closes with that: the results will not be made public.
Mhm.
So Brunstetter was like, that's how you'll know something was done, if you never see the fucking guy again. But I mean, I guess that's the oddly enough, he's what takes us into UFC 282, which was a pretty great card, regardless of how the main event got screwed up and going into it, and the whole, you know, the two fights that went to a decision are the ones that kind of made the news. And the one in particular, Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon, again, fucking Doug Crosby's name is on it, and it's just like. Like, how do you go from East Coast to West Coast and get your name? And the thing is, like, the I don't know the guy, never saw him, but like those two, from what I heard, the way his behavior when Sonnen had him on the podcast, like in my mind, the guy's a narcissist, and I just have this weird feeling in my gut that he's sitting home, rubbing his hands together, watching everyone complain, and just giggling his ass off. Like it's probably fun for him. I just I I I never disliked someone that I never really met, but there's just enough stuff out there to be like, yo, I don't like, fucking stay away from the sport. Stay away from the sport.
No, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I don't know. All three judges scored it for Pimblett, and I
Mm-hmm.
don't. It was one of those things. I mean, it was blatantly obvious that it was a I guess at best a terrible decision,
Mm-hmm.
and at worst a corrupt decision. I mean, just seeing Dana White's reaction with the Barstool guys, his amateur
Yeah.
hour, like they got a gamble. You got a gambling. Uh,
They're in
they're
Nevada.
in the middle of like a gambling
Yeah. They're in
investigation.
Las Vegas, and then yeah.
It's in Las Vegas. You're it just there's so much going on in the UFC. It's
Yeah.
crazy right now. It's crazy right now because how we had for 20 years all you heard about was how it was Japan. Japan's corrupt. Japan lets their fighters use steroids. Now meanwhile we've got guys ducking out of their contract to take steroids and then come back and avoid testing. So no different really. Just say you're not going to test anymore. We got that. We always heard it was the Yakuza fight fixes. Remember all the fixed fights in Pride, even though only like the average person can only name like three,
Mm-hmm.
but or from the early days, but anybody that knows UFC can name two or three of themselves before we even start getting into how many potentially of these James Krause fights or
Mm-hmm.
other fights in the UFC. We'll see what the investigation comes out. Had stuff going on. I mean, that's the one thing that can really bring down the sport,
Mm-hmm.
is when you got that going on. We heard about Pride having fixed or judges, corrupt judges. Now we got, it just goes to show that it's the sport. The sport's going to involve drugs. It's
Well,
going to involve
every sport.
corruption.
Yeah,
It's
every
every
sport.
sport. It's every sport. So there's like no reason to act like we're in some golden era of this, clean sport with nothing going on. There's clearly something going on. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot score that fight 40, 50, 45 without there being some kind of either predetermined in his mind, like I heard somebody say that he seems to want to go the way the promoters would go, which would
Mm-hmm.
lead to believe that maybe somebody's slipping somebody some money just to kind of always, maybe not specifically for the fight, but if you give somebody, $50,000, 8 months ago, they
Mm-hmm.
probably still got your back. So, and again, who knows? God, hopefully that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen, because that's the one thing, that gets out, and that's bad for the whole sport.
Yeah.
Maybe not bring down the sport, but it bring down the UFC if you had a gambling
Mm-hmm.
controversy and found out that judges were not on the up
Yeah.
and up.
So here's the other like weird thing that I found. Like you mentioned that clip that I saw that clip too about when Dana White's talking to Portnoy and them, and they're listening to the decision, and he nods like, yeah, that's how it was supposed to go, type of deal. It's perception. Everyone can look at that and think what they want. But here, the thing that makes me kind of side with that thinking, looking at that clip, is in the post fight press conference when he's asked about that fight, he faults he says something about the judging and he faults Jared Gordon. Apparently, Patty Pimblett did nothing wrong. And of course, I mean, you were on the guy's podcast like 4 days before, so you like it's so clear that what Tony Ferguson called Dana White privilege is actually a thing. Like, if it could not be more apparent. Jared Gordon wants a rematch. I wrote
No
about
way,
that.
no way they'll give him a rematch.
Yeah, but Jared Gordon, he literally wants a rematch and wants to do it in London. And he's a charitable guy. I know one thing Pimblett said is like he wants to do whatever charity, kind of like something together. Um, with Gordon to kind of help, in whatever causes they're involved in, that the two of them can do it together. Gordon says he's got no hard feelings about it. He's even willing to face him on the London card, in March next year. Um, I think it's warranted, the rematch. If you got this much bad press, I mean, if anything, one thing Gordon said, he was like, if anything, his stock went up. He never thought his stock would go up from losing a fight, but his stock actually went up because more people were like, yo. Even he said when he spoke to TMZ, he was like, there's even like Patty Pimblett fans that were like, yo, not for nothing, you got robbed, dude.
Oh no, and there's no doubt, but that's why his stock in theory went up. But like,
Mm-hmm.
he also said that he only got paid his show money. So like, what is the value of your stock really? Like, why are
Well,
you
to
gonna
the company you fight for, yeah, it's kind of
to
fucked
the
up.
company? Yeah, so you're gonna go basically be on the main card in London. Type this guy, he ain't gonna win a decision in London. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I don't know if he finishes Pimblett. Like, there was no evidence of like that he's gonna necessarily finish him in that fight. Although he seemed to, you know, I thought he won the fight clearly. If anything, closer to 30-27
Mm-hmm.
than even 29-28. So,
One
but
thing,
go ahead. Sorry.
no, one thing is I feel like you know people always talk about when they get to the UFC, it's you see what type of elite level fighters are at, or whether or not where they deserve to be. I think Patty Pimblett. I don't want to use the word exposed, but like in the pre-fight presser, Ilya Topuria and Pimblett were kind of going at it, and after watching his performance on the same card, you like if I don't think Patty Pimblett's gonna be draw, talking shit to Ilya Topuria anytime soon, because Pimblett has to work his way up the rankings. I mean, if the rankings still mean anything, I mean, I think I honestly think Gordon does win the rematch. I think he'll train harder for it. Um, I he dominated. I don't want to say dominated him, but he was definitely more. He had more control. Pimblett's argument was damage versus control, and that's why he won. I guess if you're Doug Crosby, that's the case. But um, I think he wins a rematch. I hope he gets the rematch. I
But
think
here's the thing. You mentioned that real quick. Sorry to cut you off, but you
hmm
bring up a good point.
hmm
That's the thing with Douglas Crosby, because it's the opposite of what he did. In the Sabatello fight, he gave 5 rounds to a guy who controlled his opponent but really never damaged him. And then the next night he comes back and he uses a totally different judging criteria to give it to Pimblett.
Mm.
Because then all of a sudden it was like, okay, he's being controlled, but he landed a few shots. While the night before he completely ignored everything that Stotts did on his back, where he was elbowing
Yeah.
him and landing bigger strikes. Sorry to cut you off there, but I just
No.
John dawned on me that that's another uh,
Yeah.
thing that happened in that fight. So you were talking about a rematch. You
Yeah.
know, I feel like I don't think unless they offer Gordon a lot of money to do it. But I don't see the
Mhm.
UFC having a reason to do that.
Mhm.
Why the UFC doesn't want Pimblett to lose? We're basically pointing at that right now. So why would you put him in against another guy, a guy who just beat him? Like I don't know if you almost can't risk him losing to a guy like Jared Gordon. He's
Yeah.
got to either have squash matches he can win or lose to a ranked fighter to
Mhm.
save face. Because if he loses to a ranked fighter, suddenly he's going to be green again. He'll be green. He'll get the oh okay well the Paige Van Zant treatment where it was like okay well he can still main event. He can still be a big name. Okay, oh oops, he lost twice. You know, well, he bled a lot and he fought hard and didn't give up. So
Mhm.
we'll give him another main. But as long as he's fighting, the Rose Namajunas of the lightweight division, which is guys that are going to smoke him.
Mhm.
you know, um, so I don't know. I it just seems to me that the UFC really screwed Jared Gordon. The fact that he didn't get any kind of extra money, at least that he would talk about, is
Mhm.
kind of disgraceful.
Yeah.
And what like why is Dana White even over with David Portnoy? Like what does he have to like why are they even
Hey,
face to face? Like
money
unless
folk
you
like money folk, man. They, you know what
I
I'm saying?
know,
Like,
but like of all the people in the arena who he could be standing next to, you probably shouldn't stand next to the head sponsor for one of the guys that's getting fight. That's in the cage and
mm.
getting the name read off. It just looks terrible in the midst of all this other stuff that's going on. It seems brain dead. It
I
seems
mean,
just
talk about brain dead. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if anyone no one literally talked about it. I watched it to see if I could get something to write about, and it was like a sleep aid watching the ESPN Brett Okamoto interview with Dana White's fucking Merry Christmas and have a great New Year fucking interview that they did. So Dana White, when he was asked about the gambling thing after UFC 282, he starts off answering Mike Bone from MMA Junkie calmly, and then he's like, how the fuck should I know? And gets goes standard Dana White, and then of course when he mentioned that he was like, oh, I got an interview with Okamoto coming out where I'm going to address that. He literally said less than he said. Like he addressed it, in the way that I can't really talk about it. It's been the investigation's going on. That's how he addressed it. But it was the most softball interview I've ever seen. And like I mean, he's obviously Brett Okamoto is like their new their guy for trying to make them shine or whatever. But it's a snooze fest if you watch it. I tweeted it like the came out. It's probably the worst interview I've ever seen. I mean, they're literally it's like watching a first date. What's your favorite? What's your favorite candy? What are you doing for Christmas? Like those are the questions that he asked him. Like seriously. So yeah, that's and I mean just talking about things to come in 2023, which was already announced. I don't know why that came out after they recorded it on fight week and it came out after everything. I'm not sure what the planning behind that was or what the point of it really was, but it's definitely something that it's just looking real. I said this before. It's like the UFC, it's not for us anymore. It's really not for us anymore. It seems like they're making all these events and marketing it towards other people. I don't know who the other people are, but whoever they are, they're part of that same club that George Carlin said we're not a part of.
yeah. I don't know. I just think that they just try to make money any way that they can
Hmm.
and it doesn't matter if it's good or bad for the sport or for the growth or anything, but there were some highlights and
Hmm.
we obviously still want to but I guess another kind of hiccup was the main event that night. Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev um ends in a draw, so
A split
still
draw, which is
split
weird.
draw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what happens when one judge gives a 10-8. When if more judges gave 10-8s, then we would have draws a lot more often, and it's obviously discouraged despite it being like in the rules that you're supposed to do it. So like that's even another thing where like promoters have come out in the past, not to name anybody specifically, but just you consider how few draws there have been in the UFC. Like the odds of
Mhm.
that are almost insane. So we got one this night, which throws a monkey wrench into the plans for the future for the light heavyweight, but not for long, um, because as the fight cards were basically being read off as a decision, we basically instantly found out that Glover Teixeira and
Mhm.
uh, Jeremiah Hill will be fighting at
The-
the next UFC.
Yeah.
Well, the next pay per view in Brazil, headlining over Figueiredo and Moreno. And like, I know that we usually go with the bigger weight classes over the top, like, but
But with them two, it's like, come
like,
on, like.
first of all, like, I was like, everybody kept saying, "Oh, they need a main event," and I was kind of like, "Well, do they really? They don't need a co-main event? I mean, shouldn't that be kind of the shining star for the event? Like, what?"
Anyone that doesn't like that fight, like, is a fucking retard. Like not for nothing. Like I'll watch them fight 10 times. Figueiredo and Moreno. If you want to know why, watch their last fights and tell me if you don't fucking feel like throwing yourself out the window from excitement because of
That's
the
why it was
yeah
strange. And I think I
yeah.
said Jeremiah. I meant Jamal Hill. I don't know why that slipped my mind, but
Hey, if you're not screwing up names on this podcast,
then I'm not doing my job, I guess.
well,
I'm not trying. Uh, the so that'll headline Brazil now,
but the fucked
and
up thing is that Anthony Lionheart Smith gets left in the lurch now. And he was on the ESPN broadcast table when that news came out. I feel like he was kind of quelling his reaction because he's like, "Holy shit!" On TV, let me not go crazy and throw my headset at the monitor guy. But I mean, I would imagine somebody kind of hinted I think it was John Anik was like, maybe they'll compensate you in some other way, kind of
yeah,
like, yeah, fucking pay me whatever fight I can take next, pay me a lot to do it if it's not going to be for
yeah. Well, Anik jumped in and kind of saved
he's
Lionheart from
yeah
potentially going off the rails because,
yeah
I don't think he would have. I think he's professional enough not to
mm,
have. But I think he thought. But you can't imagine what's going through somebody's head when you've been training for a guy, because that fight's been announced for quite a while now.
yeah
Um, just crazy. But the other thing that leaves this open for more chaos is if Glover Teixeira were to win and then retire, because he's 42, 43 years old now.
mm-hmm,
Um, I kind of thought he should have retired after winning the title because I thought it was a good storybook ending, and I thought he was always going to have trouble with Yuri Prohaska,
yeah
but he has a chance now to do it in Brazil, win the title. His career started down there in Brazil. He had trouble getting a visa to come to the U.S. to fight
mm-hmm,
for
yeah
years and years. It seems like the perfect storybook ending if he were to win the fight, a fight he's likely to be favored in,
mm-hmm,
and win the title, retire, which would then again vacate the title, and then then who knows what you have. Any other organization would do a Grand Prix, and the UFC meanwhile will just pick up
mm-hmm.
two random ranked fighters and call it a title fight. Because I mean, you know, I it just seems weird to throw this fight together so quickly. They couldn't wait for Ankulev to Glover in January, but because this last
Well,
pay per
he's not
view was
getting any
Bellator.
younger. Like he was supposed to fight this past week. You know what I mean?
Uh huh.
Like this. So I guess they have to give him something to try to figure because again, he is thinking about retiring and stuff like that. So I get all that, but I don't know, man. It's just like I know they have a lot of new fighters that they signed with the contender series and stuff like that. They have more stars to make or whatever their plan is, but I mean the UFC is definitely morphing into some different kind of beast that I don't know what to look forward to in 2023. But one thing we're getting hints of we've mentioned before in the podcast, and Michael Chandler was talking about how cool it would be if he could fight McGregor in July, or I forget where else he mentioned. I forget what the full quote was, but I feel like he wouldn't be saying it if it wasn't something that was a conversation that was happening. You know.
No, and Dana White didn't tell somebody to shut the fuck up for asking a question about it, you know what I mean? So there's likely to be some, who knows
Shut the
exactly,
fuck up. Yeah.
you know,
I'm gonna
but
start when you ask me questions I don't know the answer to. I'm just gonna say to you, "How the fuck would I know?" Just gonna say it like,
that's the
gonna say it
perfect
like
answer.
that.
I mean,
Yeah,
just as rudely as you can for a
yeah.
question that you clearly have some answer
See
on.
how far that gets me in life.
Yeah. Um, I lost my train of thought now. Oh, the Chandler fight.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
there's a couple things. It's I don't. It hurts me to think that International Fight Week would be headlined by a non-title fight,
Hmm.
by a guy coming back off of by two dudes on losing streaks. As much as I like Michael Chandler
Hmm.
and as much as I like watching Conor McGregor fight, um, it seems it seems devaluing of a pay-per-view. Like I get the fight the fight will be fireworks. I think it
Hmm.
would be bad. I've mentioned I thought it would be bad for Michael Chandler. I think Michael Chandler gets hit too much, and I think McGregor throws too straight and crisp of a punch, and I think he obliterates Michael Chandler, the Michael Chandler I see now. So sadly for me, as I've stated many times, he's one of my favorite fighters of all time. But I just it seems like a bad matchup for me.
Hmm.
Um, and I think it's bad to reward Conor McGregor with a headlining International Fight Week after he's lost a couple in a row. He hasn't won in seems like forever. Um, we know why he's not getting drug tested for a year. It just so they'll do it. I mean, they'll do it, but it doesn't seem like it should be the main event.
Hmm.
To me that should be a co-main event. Like that should be a co-main event under John Jones Ngannou or something like that. Like, and I'm not God, we're rewarding John Jones, but there should be a title fight, and it should be a big title fight that headlines obviously over McGregor. So for me, that's the heavyweight championship.
Hmm.
That's maybe the potentially Usman nowadays if it was the welterweight. Some guys who have earned like that big big headlining fight.
Hmm.
You know, maybe Pahea versus whoever unfolds for the maybe Hill beats Glover, and then
Hmm.
Pahea goes up to 205 to try to
Yeah.
avenge his mentor, and
Hey, oh, that see that, and
and
that's a great story. That's good matchmaking right there. Yeah.
you know what I mean. Like there's potential for stuff like that,
Hmm.
but the McGregor, like I don't want to see that headlining like that. And it will because McGregor won't fight unless he's headlining. So I the part of me
I
respects him for
see.
having that power, but I don't know.
I think they're definitely going to do the Pereira Adesanya rematch just because um it's for them it's marketable. I think probably there's a lot of casuals that want it. But I mean it's crazy. One thing I'll just to jump right back to Bellator. I mean now we got our final set with Stotts and Mix. I don't know how you see that fight going, but it's not the lead up. I don't think the lead up will be as fun as this was. This last one was, but who do you have between them two?
Well, when the fight ended with the Megomeds, double Megomed against Mix, I said, okay, well, I'm from this point on, I'm never gonna bet against a guy named Patchy, and
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick with that. I think he's got his height, his his body type, everything. He's just
Hmm.
huge for that weight class. He makes everybody else look small, and I think he's just. I think he kind of reminds me a lot of Anthony or AJ McKee.
Yeah.
I feel like that kind of now that and even up to this fight, obviously, take away the Megomeds, I'm probably leaning towards Patchy Mix just
Well,
based off the fact he dominated Horiguchi, like what he's
yeah.
done in the past. It
Well,
obviously, but go
yeah.
ahead.
No. Yeah. The thing about dominating Horiguchi, you're right about that. And the other thing is you don't get a lot of guys finishing Dagestani fighters these days. And the fact that he hit that choke on him is a huge feather in his cap that like not to sleep on Patchy Mix. He might be a man of little words, so you can't the selling point of going back and forth with because Rafian's great on the mic, he's great in the cage too. So you'll have that one aspect not there, but because of they're both so good. I honestly think this fight is going to be like I see them Chandler Alvarez levels of competition between the two of them. I think they're both going to go for broke, and whoever wins that is going to be deserving of the $1 million and the obviously the interim title, and then obviously whoever wins that gets to fight Sergio Pettis because he'll be back from the mend and ready to go. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just
yeah,
yeah, it's
it's
hard.
gonna be fun.
It's yeah, it's gonna be fun. But Patchy Mix just seems like he's the guy right now to me
Hmm.
after that performance, like you said, like he finished the guy. So like just that alone, like it starts to elevate you to like, okay, maybe there's something more special about this guy.
Hmm.
Maybe he is a level better.
Hmm.
And he lost the title fight. Um, no harm, no foul in that. I mean that.
No, he even said like he was like I was too young. I didn't know as much as I do now, and like now I'm a little more mature. I'm a little. Like he learned from the loss, and we're seeing him like literally win his way back up to another title shot, and obviously the finals of this Grand Prix. Um, it's one of the things I love about watching this sport, especially with these young guys. That's why, again, we talked about you mentioned it last week. People like to shit on Bellator that they like to grab old for they don't build anybody. Patchy Mix is a guy that they've built. AJ McKee is a guy that they've built up, and all these guys in this Grand Prix. And I've always thought the 135 division in Bellator was the best in the entire sport. I know folks are try to say otherwise because of who they follow. But I mean, as long as I've been watching MMA, Bellator's 135ers have it's murderers row, so that's gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun. I'm curious to try to figure out how Stotts wins that fight,
Mm-hmm.
but obviously he's excited. He's the interim champ right now, and
Mm-hmm.
um, Sabatello's a tough matchup for anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You're likely not to have like a bunch of highlights fighting Danny Sabatello.
Yeah,
Likely you just got to survive and do enough, and I think that Stotts did just enough. I mean,
yeah.
I would have been. It would have been. There could be no robbery in that fight if it was 20, or if it was 48-47. If it's three
Mm-hmm.
rounds to two for either fighter, there's no robbery. That it was close, but when you but 50-45, that's asinine. Even
Yeah.
4 rounds to one really for either guy would have been probably pushing it. That would have led me to wonder what you're watching. But 3 rounds to two either way, there was definitely a couple close rounds where things could have swayed slightly. But yeah, good fight. I feel
And
like
just one thing to before we leave that one alone is and they're all young, so we're probably gonna see Stotts and Sabatello fight each other again. You know what I mean? Like they're all young fighters. So that's the other thing about the 135ers in Bellator. There's not like a Joe Warren there who's actually somebody I really liked when he was a 135 champ there. But like it's just everybody, no matter what happens, if they're not great now or you don't see the greatness in them now, they're going to be great later. Sabatello's obviously got the it factor to be a star, and he just gets a little bit better, against higher level guys or guys that are a little bit better than him. Then we're definitely going to see him headlining many future cards, in the days to come, as long as Bellator keeps him on the roster. So I think as we're closing out the year, I think Bellator, as much as people like to complain about them not promoting well or whatever, like don't sleep on them. They put the information out there. You're just not looking at it because you're looking at other shit. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So they have the Bellator Rising card coming up at the end of the year. I know the UFC has one more event this weekend with Cannonier and Strickland facing each other in the main event, and then tomorrow for my jiu-jitsu grappling heads, the Fight Pass Invitational, which I love. They have Gordon Ryan against Vinny Magalhaes. He's probably going to break Vinny Magalhaes' leg, but I know Magalhaes has a win over him from some other competition, so there is a story there for folks that don't know. But I mean, Gordon Ryan is a lot bigger than the last time that they face each other, and I feel like we're just gonna submission only grappling is being showcased so much. I I I I wanted to try to. I want Scott Coker to try to like add that to YouTube, Bellator YouTube or something. Chael Sonnen's back in bed with Bellator again. So I don't mean to phrase it that way, but like he hasn't done anything with submission underground. Maybe make that part of a how they did Bellator kickboxing, do Bellator grappling.
Bellator Underground.
Yeah, yeah, something like that.
Um, Also, Bia Mosquita, uh, one of the female jiu-jitsu aces. She faces Misha Tate that night.
That's right. That's right.
I,
Yeah.
I, I covered the EBI event where Bia dominated, won the tournament, um, and kind of followed her career as best as from an outside perspective. She's one of the females that I kind of keep an eye on. So she's likely to just destroy Misha Tate. This is probably just
Yeah.
you know the thing that got me is I saw it pop up, and my first thing is to look for tickets. You know what they were charging to go to this thing?
No. For this?
What do you
Yeah.
what do you what do you think
No,
a
I'm not gonna
ticket?
guess because
Because the cheapest seat in like an EBI kind of setup with just some
mhm,
bleachers around the thing, it was $400 to $700 for tickets
for the Fight Pass Invitational
for the
tomorrow.
Fight Pass Invitational.
All right.
I mean, I think that's all you really can say is nothing because
I, it's
I
not for. Hey, like I
it,
said, it's not for us
it's
anymore.
crazy. It's
Not
absolutely
for.
crazy. I couldn't believe when I saw that they wanted $400 just to get in the
Put
door
those
with,
3 letters on the logo, and it's not for us anymore.
and it's not. I don't know. I mean, it's not some super over the top submission event. Gordon Ryan's on it, Vinny Megalace. Gordon Ryan's probably going to dominate. Bia Mosquita's going to destroy Misha Tate, and then you have an absolute tournament. I think maybe an
Mm.
open weight tournament, but like not a lot of like. I don't know. I don't recognize the names like popping off at me. Like I'm looking at
I haven't looked at the rest of the names. I have to check them out. But I am
and
gonna be.
I
I mean,
I
I'll
might
I'll
be
be tweet.
ignorant on it, but either way, it's not worth anywhere near that amount of money.
Not for a ticket. No, no. Sorry, sorry, competitors. Like,
I mean, it's just EBI events were like $35 to get in the door. I think
yeah,
this
no.
one.
I've been to Fight to Wins, and we got one out here, Men of War, the one that Jillian competes in, and I know. I think when I was gonna do the ADCCs with Nate, I think those tickets were like maybe 120 or something like that. That's the most I've ever seen. Um, yeah, eh, it is what it is. I guess I don't know. I mean, maybe Zuckerberg will be in the crowd cheering on Gordon Ryan and all his pastiness.
Okay, so we still have tickets available.
Are you checking?
Okay, we may have. Yeah, what is?
Do they have like
They,
VIP? Like, is there champagne and shit that comes with?
let's see. They may have dropped prices on some seats.
Yeah, I mean, it is the night before. If they're not moving any, then I would assume the price would go down.
Okay, yeah, no, the price went down quite a bit.
Mm,
You can. There's only a handful of tickets left, and now you can get in the door for $100.
normal. Thank you.
You know, but yeah, no, it was 400 to 700 when I first when they first went on sale, and then I'm glad to see people didn't gobble that up, and
Yeah.
and the prices had to drop to something semi reasonable. Um, Liz Carmouche, need to give her credit. I didn't think she'd win the fight. She
Oh
looked
yeah.
outstanding.
I meant to rub
Uh,
that in your face too. Yeah. Distracted
so
by other things, but yeah.
yeah, Crosby threw that into confusion, but I got to give her credit. She looked outstanding. Picked up a brutal armbar finish. Uh, Defended the title.
Yeah, she's a mean
Uh,
woman. Told you.
yeah, I knew that. I just thought that
Not
her
mean,
time
but I mean, like if you fight her,
like
that's a mean
tough.
lady.
Yeah, she's gritty,
Yeah.
and she kicked ass. So credit where credit is due. I can eat my crow on that one. I was completely wrong. So credit there. Um, in the UFC, Tapura, we were both wrong on this fight. Another looked absolutely outstanding,
Yeah.
taking out Bryce Mitchell. I mean,
And
dominating the
yeah.
fight. Uh,
Like yeah,
look,
like if Tapuria wasn't really on your radar before that, it's like, damn, dude. I mean, way to shut me the hell up.
yeah, I mean, I knew he was good. I thought Mitchell would be able to kind of control on the ground, but
Not even.
it
Nah.
seemed like we were dealing with Hall of Famer versus an amateur in that fight, which
And his
was
power,
really
like
shocking.
every punch he threw, it looked like he was trying to like launch himself out of the cage. Like he
Yeah,
was literally putting all his weight and weight he lost behind every punch. It was crazy.
crazy. Alex Morono looked good, and then he got blasted by Ponzinibbio. But fun fight.
Hmm.
You know, good knockout. Darren
Yeah.
Till looked terrible. Uh, Duplessis
Yeah.
looked all right.
That was
you
a
know,
great fight though. They got fight of the night honors on that, and I thought they both deserved it because of the fact that they both had their moments, and then they didn't have their moment. There was moments when Duplessis looked like he was exhausted, and then he seemed to come back, and you know what I mean. Like it was that was
there was heart. There was heart. It was just kind of
you know
sloppy.
everybody got bonus. Like everyone got $50,000 that got a finish on that card. Dana White gave him 50K bonuses. So obviously the only ones that didn't were Patty Pimblett, who had the fucking gall to ask for one, and then the main event. So
Yeah. Interesting. I did not know that. Rosenstruck dominant, quick
mhm.
knockout. So, like you said, Roses Jr. looked great for an 18-year-old kid.
Oh
Doesn't look like
man.
18-year-old in the cage. Um, Curious to see what they do with him. Because I know it kind of got brought up, maybe him fighting Sterling. I know it wasn't real necessarily, but
Mhm.
it did make the news. There's a there's a small part of me, maybe a bigger part that I really like, that would kind of like to see something like that. If nothing's gonna matter, if rankings aren't gonna matter,
Yeah.
if Jorge Masvidal is gonna get another title shot, if these kind of things are gonna happen in this sport, then why not? Like there can never be an 18-year-old champion if you never give an 18-year-old a chance to win the championship. Obviously we want to look out for the guys, but like it just seems like that might be something to really get get something that we've never seen before and maybe get some eyes. Uh, or at least it'd be a huge storyline. Looks like we've lost Ed
No,
here.
I'm here. It's
Oh,
just like my camera died.
oh, his camera died. So, um, I'm looking at blue-eyed Carbazal on the screen now. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, I doubt that happens, but there is something there because he does seem to have that it factor that um, and that special ability to beat people in a cage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's pretty much. Hold on. Here's yeah. This they someone I heard something else about Till's knee. Kevin Nicholson, Mr. MMA injury report himself. Till's knee is a mess. He said after the fight he may have tore his ACL again. I had read that somewhere else as well, Kevin. And I mean, it's funny talking about knees, the ACL in particular. I spoke with Zachary Hicks, who's fighting on Spectation Sports this weekend at the Nashville Underground event, and he's actually had both of his replaced. And I have the audio of these interviews, but they don't let me use. They're for written pieces. But one of the things he told me the first time I talked to him was like when he had them replaced, he was like, "My knees are actually better than they've ever been." So I guess it depends on your body, and he's fighting. Hicks is fighting Fred Freeman on at a catch weight at Nashville Underground. So I have spectationsports.com. If you sign up with them, use code Carbazal, it's 20% off your first month or your first year, whatever you sign up for. But the whole reason I brought him up was he he said that his knees he's actually on a 2-fight win streak since he's coming back from surgery. And then you have the opposite side of the spectrum with Darren Till, where it seems like he's just falling apart. Like the Darren Till that was on the rise, ever since he's had his issues, it just looks like it's not his day anymore. Or like if he's gonna have surgery again, you got to wonder. I mean, I don't know. Dominic, like, is he gonna be like Dominic Cruz and come back, and win? Who knows with him now.
yeah, it's not good. It's not good. He can't fight. 185 is too big for him. He needs to fight
Hmm.
170 if he's going to fight. He's got to get in extremely good shape. But it's definitely not good that that happened. Um, it's just so casually how we talk about a lot of guys blowing out their knees and stuff, and it's like it's not. I mean, it's better now than it used to be, obviously, but it's
Yeah.
just crazy some of the injuries that.
I don't like to talk about my knees bother me as it is. So as a old hobbyist grappler, so when I hear about knee stuff, I always get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, I hear that. I thought the mascot Halo was gonna go raise hell, but
That's
she's
all
all
right. I mean,
right.
we're already wrapping things up anyway, so you might as well go deal with her.
Yeah, I think that does pretty much wrap us up. Um, Fans can follow the show at Combat Hour on Twitter, Coast to Coast Combat Hour on Instagram. You can always check us out weekly at allaccessmma.com. You can follow me, Matthew Hawkins, at MMAHawk21 on Twitter and Instagram. Follow Ed at Carbazol on Twitter, Carbeerzol on Instagram, and Old Head Carb on Twitch. And you can also check out when you check them out on Twitter, you can see the show there too. So, bunch of options.
Hmm.
Thanks, Kevin, for the comments, and have a good night, everyone.
And just real quick before we wrap it up, I wanted to dedicate this week's podcast to Miss Melanie Williams. A friend of mine passed away last week. Somebody I grew up with. So rest in peace, Melanie. You will be missed.